They know the damage they've done, and that knowledge keeps them silent. It's not that they don't care, it's that facing the aftermath of their actions feels heavier than staying away. Avoidants don't vanish out of spite or indifference. They disappear because confronting the hurt they caused is terrifying. Every memory of a harsh word, every moment of distance they created, lingers in their mind, and the weight of that realization keeps their voice quiet. Silence becomes their shield, a way to protect both themselves and the person they care about from the intensity of emotions they can't fully handle. Even when they think about reaching out, fear takes over. They imagine your reaction, the look in your eyes, and the pain they may still bring, and their feet stay rooted. Instead of picking up the phone or sending a message, they watch from afar. They linger in the shadows of your social media posts, your stories, the glimpses of your life that are just out of reach. Each small like, each hesitant comment is a test, a quiet signal that they are still here, still observing, still feeling. But it's never bold, never dramatic. Their return is subtle, a whisper rather than a shout, because the avoidant fears that any loud movement might shatter the fragile connection they hope still exists. Avoidants are not strangers to guilt. They carry it like an invisible weight, and it shapes every decision they make. They are afraid of the confrontation, the truth of seeing how much they hurt you reflected in your eyes. That fear keeps them distant, even when their heart aches to bridge the gap. They measure themselves constantly. Am I ready to face the truth of what I did? Can I handle the intensity of this connection without pulling back again? These internal calculations aren't excuses. They are a survival mechanism, a way to protect both their fragile sense of control and the feelings of the one they care about. And yet, despite the fear, despite the distance, their presence is often the quietest form of confession. A sudden message after months, a brief check-in, a lingering glance through your online life. They are trying, in their own careful way, to make amends without words. This is how avoidants express care, through action, not confession, through presence, not drama. They will not always say they are sorry, but if you notice the small gestures, the subtle attempts to reconnect, you will see it clearly. Ultimately, if an avoidant reaches out, it is not because they forgot or because the hurt never existed. It is because they finally faced themselves, faced the reflection of the pain they caused, and dared to risk opening the door they once closed. And in that quiet courage, in that hesitant return, you witness the paradox of the avoidant. They can hurt deeply, they can run endlessly, yet they are capable of a love so cautious, so subtle, and so profoundly human that it speaks louder than any apology ever could. Instead of calling, they watch. They linger in your stories, your social media posts, carefully, quietly, from a distance. These small acts are their way of testing the waters, of gauging whether the connection they once had is still alive. Avoidants are rarely ready to face someone head on after a period of absence. They don't step forward boldly, they creep forward cautiously. Every view, every subtle reaction, every lingering pause over a post is a measure of the space between you, a quiet probe to see if reaching out could be safe. They crave reassurance, but exposure terrifies them. To confront the emotions directly is to risk their fragile sense of control, so they choose the shadows instead, letting their presence speak softly before their words ever do. The return is never dramatic. There are no grand gestures, no declarations of apology, or sudden bursts of emotion. It's subtle, almost invisible, like a whisper across a quiet room. Sometimes it is like on a post they knew would catch your attention. Sometimes it's a brief comment crafted carefully to show engagement without inviting confrontation. Each small act carries weight, though it may seem insignificant to anyone unaware of the psychology behind it. For the avoidant, every movement toward reconnection is a victory. They are balancing the fear of rejection against the desire to be seen, to be remembered, to exist again in the space of someone they care about deeply. This careful observation is also a form of self protection. Avoidants often worry that if they step too far too fast, they will reopen wounds, both for themselves and for the other person. They monitor, they test, and they measure, always staying just far enough to avoid immediate consequences. In their minds, even a small misstep could undo the fragile progress of reconnection, so they act in increments, letting curiosity and care guide them forward slowly. The subtlety of their return is a signature trait. It is deliberate, calculated, and rooted in the very fear that drives them away in the first place. Yet in these quiet gestures lies truth. The avoidance careful watching their hesitant engagement reveals the depth of their emotional attachment. Even when they can't articulate their feelings, even when words fail them, these small acts are a silent form of communication. They are saying, I am still here. I notice you. I care. Even if I can't fully say it, it is an acknowledgement of the past, a tentative step toward the present, and perhaps a hope for a future where they can participate more fully without fear. Understanding these small acts changes how we see the avoidant. They are not indifferent or unfeeling. They are cautious, protective of both themselves and the person they care about. Their return, though subtle, is meaningful. Every quiet look, every careful message, every small signal is a testament to their internal struggle, a whisper of love they are not yet ready to speak aloud. And if you notice, if you pay attention to the patterns rather than the silence, you will see the avoidant reaching out. Not recklessly, not dramatically, but intentionally, with care and with the unspoken hope that the distance can slowly begin to close. The last thing they want is to see the pain they caused reflected in your eyes. That look, the one that silently says, I'm hurt because of you, is unbearable for an avoidant. They carry the memory of every moment they pulled away, every harsh word, every unintentional sting, and the thought of facing that pain directly keeps them at a distance. Avoidants avoid emotional confrontation, not because they are cold or uncaring, but because their own emotions are difficult to navigate. In seeing the effect of their actions mirrored back at them threatens to unravel the careful control they have built around themselves. Even if they long to reconnect, even if their heart aches for closeness, the risk of reopening wounds is often too great. Guilt is a constant companion for the avoidant. They replay past mistakes silently, analyzing every interaction, wondering where things went wrong, and fearing the consequences of reaching out. The confrontation, whether it is a conversation, a look, or even a hint of judgment, feels like stepping into a storm they cannot control. They worry that one wrong word, one misstep, could intensify the pain they already caused, or push the person they care about further away. This fear is not about indifference, it is about survival. Avoidants have learned, often through repeated experiences, that deep emotional exposure can be overwhelming. So, to protect both themselves and the other person, they stay at arm's length, wrestling internally with the tension between desire and fear. Reaching out for an avoidant is a delicate balance. Every approach is calculated, measured against the possibility of failure, the risk of judgment, and the emotional weight they might trigger. They may draft a message countless times before sending it, or linger near your posts on social media without ever making contact, testing whether it is safe to re-enter your emotional space. This hesitation is not lack of care. It is the manifestation of fear, a reflection of how deeply they understand the potential consequences of their actions. The confrontation they avoid is often less about the other person and more about their own vulnerability. They fear that facing your hurt head on will expose parts of themselves they struggle to manage, feelings of guilt and regret that are still raw and unprocessed. Yet, beneath this fear lies the unspoken truth. Avoidance care deeply. Their silence, their distance, and their avoidance of confrontation are all expressions of a complicated love, one that is cautious and self-protective. They want to make amends, to reconnect, to show that they see the hurt they caused, but they must do it in a way that does not overwhelm them or the person they care about. Understanding this fear helps make sense of the patterns of avoidance. It is never a lack of love, but a deep, often painful struggle with their own limitations, their own emotional boundaries, and the enormity of facing someone they unintentionally hurt. In the end, the avoidance fear of confrontation is both a barrier and a signal. It is a warning that their care is tangled with their struggle, that love and fear coexist in a delicate balance, and that when they finally muster the courage to face the pain, It is an act of bravery, not recklessness. Every hesitant step, every quiet approach is a testament to the conflict inside them, silent acknowledgement that they know the hurt they caused and are cautiously seeking a path back without causing more. A like on your post. A sudden message after months they are trying, but cautiously. Avoidants rarely make bold moves when it comes to mending a connection. Their love is quiet, careful, and measured, expressed more through gestures than words. Even the smallest interaction carries meaning because it represents a breach of the walls they have built to protect themselves. Every subtle act, a reaction, a brief comment, a story view, is a way of dipping a toe back into your life without fully exposing themselves to the vulnerability and potential hurt that comes with direct contact. For them, indirect communication is a bridge, a test, and a confession all at once. These small gestures may seem insignificant, even casual, to someone who expects drama or overt displays of emotion. But for the avoidant, each action is deliberate. Every click, every short message, every lingering glance through your online presence is a silent acknowledgement. I'm still here. I still notice you. I still care. They are reaching out without demanding a response, without forcing a conversation, without risking the intensity that comes with the face-to-face or fully emotional encounter. This is how they show love. Cautiously, tentatively, always aware of their own limitations and the delicate balance of not overwhelming the other person or themselves. Indirect contact allows them to gauge the waters to see if the emotional environment is safe enough to re-enter. They may observe how you respond to small gestures, watch for signs that you are open to interaction, and only then consider taking a bigger step. It is a strategy born from both care and fear. Care for the person they have hurt, fear of the emotional exposure that could overwhelm them, and fear of repeating past mistakes. The avoidant understands, often more acutely than anyone, the fragility of connection once walls have been built, and they tread lightly, making their intentions known without shattering the delicate balance they seek to maintain. Despite their indirect approach, there is clarity in their actions for those who know how to read the signs. Avoidants do not act out of whim or indifference. Every gesture, no matter how small, is intentional. It is a quiet conversation without words, a confession without speech, a soft reminder that they are still present, still thinking of you, and still feeling the pull of a connection that matters. This subtlety is part of what makes loving an avoidant both challenging and profound. Their care exists in the spaces between words, in actions that may be overlooked by anyone not paying close attention. Ultimately, indirect contact is their way of bridging the gap between fear and desire. It is a careful negotiation of their own vulnerabilities and the emotional reality of the other person. They are reaching out without fully exposing themselves, testing the possibility of closeness while managing the risk of hurt. And if you notice these gestures, if you read between the lines of their cautious approach, you will see a truth that is easy to miss. An avoidance love is not absent. It is hidden, subtle, and deliberate, revealed not in grand declarations, but in the small, quiet ways they allow themselves to be present again. Before they step forward, they measure themselves. Am I ready to face the truth of what I did? For an avoidant, reconnecting is never impulsive. The potential interaction carries weight, a reflection of past mistakes, of walls they built too high, of moments they wish they could take back. They pull back when emotions feel too intense, not because they don't care, but because their own feelings can be overwhelming. The thought of stepping into a space filled with unresolved tension, hurt, and unspoken words is terrifying. They need to prepare themselves mentally, emotionally, and sometimes even physically before taking even the smallest step towards someone they care about. Distance, for them, is not a punishment or an act of indifference. It is a strategy, a way to regain a sense of control over emotions that threaten to consume them. They retreat to assess, to reflect, and to ensure that when they do approach, they can handle the weight of what they are about to confront. This self-testing is a deeply internal process. They revisit every interaction, replay conversations, and analyze the moments that led to separation or distance. They consider their capacity to be present, to offer care without retreating again, and to face the consequences of the past without crumbling under the guilt or fear that accompanies it. During this period of self-assessment, avoidance may seem distant, cold, or indifferent. Yet, this apparent absence is not a lack of feeling, it is a preparation for reconnection. They are asking themselves difficult questions. Can I be honest without losing control? Can I show care without exposing all my vulnerabilities? Can I step back into this connection without repeating the mistakes I once made? These questions may not have clear answers, and often the avoidant will wait until the internal balance feels right, until the fear is tempered enough to allow them to move forward safely. This testing of readiness also serves as a measure of respect. Avoidants do not want to cause further pain. They are aware of the potential damage that can come from rushing and unprepared. By taking time to evaluate themselves, they ensure that when they do reconnect, their approach is thoughtful, measured, and intentional. Every gesture, every word, and every step toward rebuilding trust is calculated to minimize harm and maximize the chance of a positive interaction. Ultimately, this self-testing reflects the paradox of the avoidant. They desire closeness, but they are terrified of it. They feel love deeply, but they fear its intensity. Their pause, their distance, their careful measurement of readiness is not a denial of connection. It is a cautious preparation for it. And when they finally do step forward, it is not impulsive or reckless. It is a deliberate act of courage, a choice to face their fears, and a sign that they are finally ready to meet the past, the present, and the possibilities of a renewed connection with honesty, care, and intentionality. They care deeply, but their fear of hurting you again keeps them frozen in place. For the avoidant, love and fear are constantly intertwined, like two sides of the same coin, each shaping how they move, speak, and act in relationships. They feel profoundly, yet their emotional intensity terrifies them. Every expression of care is tempered by the possibility of causing pain, of triggering conflict, or of revealing too much of themselves. This paradox is at the heart of their behavior. The deeper they care, the greater their fear becomes, and the more cautious, distant, or hesitant their actions appear. Inside, the avoidant experiences a relentless push and pull. Their heart urges them to bridge the distance, to show affection, to reconnect, but their mind warns them of the consequences, the risk of repeating mistakes, the potential for more heartbreak. They are acutely aware of the fragility of trust, of how easily walls can be rebuilt, and of the immense responsibility that comes with being present in someone's life after causing hurt. The fear of misstepping, of overstepping, or of reigniting pain can paralyze them, making even the smallest act of connection feel monumental. This is why their love is often quiet, subtle, and indirect. It is love shaped by caution, by mindfulness, and by the constant negotiation between desire and self-protection. For those on the receiving end, it can feel confusing, even frustrating. The avoidant may seem distant, cold, or uninvested, yet beneath the surface lies a profound, often unseen care. They may not always speak their emotions aloud, but their attention, their subtle gestures, their quiet presence, and their careful movements all convey a deep, unspoken affection. Every action, no matter how small, is filtered through their fear of causing harm, which paradoxically makes their care both hesitant and intense. Their love exists in the spaces between words, in the pauses, in the careful timing of a message, or the way they linger in your world without fully entering it. Understanding this paradox creates empathy. It reveals the avoidant, not as someone who does not care, but as someone caught in a constant internal struggle, striving to reconcile their deep feelings with the very real fear of emotional misstep. Their hesitation is not rejection. It is a reflection of their awareness, their thoughtfulness, and their desire to protect both themselves and the person they love. It is a love shaped by caution, patience, and restraint, often invisible to those who do not look closely enough to see the subtle signs. Ultimately, the paradox of caring and fear is a defining characteristic of the avoidant. Their love is real yet restrained. Their care is profound yet cautious. Their heart reaches out even when their mind urges retreat. And if you recognize the tension between their care and their fear, you will see the quiet courage it takes for an avoidant to love at all. It is a love that walks carefully, speaks softly, and moves slowly. But it is love unmistakably, deeply, and in its own quiet way, completely. Sometimes showing up quietly is their way of saying sorry. Avoidants are rarely comfortable with overt displays of emotion, and words often fail them when it comes to expressing regret or longing. Instead, they communicate through presence, through actions and through subtle signs that reveal more than any conversation ever could. A brief message after months of silence, a lingering view of your story, a quiet appearance in a space they know you frequent. These small acts are their hidden confessions. They are saying, without speaking, I remember, I care, I feel the weight of what happened. For an avoidant, actions speak louder than words because vulnerability is not easily worn on the sleeve. Words require confrontation, risk, and a degree of openness that can feel unbearable. But presence, quiet, steady, and deliberate, allows them to show their feelings without exposing themselves to the full intensity of emotion. Each small gesture is a careful balance between desire and fear, a way to bridge the distance while still keeping the walls that protect them intact. They may appear distant, hesitant, or even inconsistent, but each interaction carries intention, meaning, and an unspoken desire to reconnect. The subtle approach is also a reflection of their internal struggle. They want to make amends, to express care, and to reach out, but they are haunted by the possibility of causing pain again. Showing up quietly allows them to test their own readiness, to see if their presence is welcomed, and to measure whether the emotional space is safe enough to allow themselves to be seen. In doing so, they communicate remorse and longing without the risk of a direct confrontation that could overwhelm both them and the other person. Each act of presence is a silent apology, a way of saying, I know I hurt you, and I wish I could change it. For the person on the receiving end, these subtle confessions can be easy to overlook. A small gesture may seem inconsequential, but for the avoidant, it carries the weight of introspection, fear, and courage. Their quiet return, their deliberate yet gentle attempts to engage, reveal a depth of feeling that words often fail to capture. It is a reminder that avoidance does not equal indifference. Rather, it is a carefully measured way of navigating the complex landscape of love, guilt, and self-protection. Ultimately, these quiet acts of presence are a testament to the avoidance struggle and their care. They may never say, I'm sorry aloud, and they may never fully articulate the depth of their feelings, but through their actions, they reveal their truth. Presence becomes their confession, subtle yet profound, hesitant yet intentional, a whisper of longing that cannot be ignored if one pays attention. In the silence of their careful movements, in the soft echo of their attention, you can feel the weight of regret and the persistence of love, quietly, steadily, and undeniably. If they reach out, it's not because they forgot, it's because they finally faced themselves. Avoidants often spend months, sometimes years, wrestling with the consequences of their past actions, navigating the weight of their fears, and confronting the walls they've built around their hearts. Every pause, every period of distance, every silent observation is a part of this internal journey. They step forward only when they feel ready to meet the truth of what they did, to acknowledge the hurt they caused, and to take responsibility for the impact of their absence. Their return is not impulsive, nor is it a casual whim. It is a deliberate, considered act that carries the quiet strength of self-awareness and the courage to confront vulnerability. This is why their approach is subtle. Avoidants rarely announce themselves with grand apologies or dramatic gestures. Instead, they let their actions speak, letting their presence be a soft but undeniable testament to care, regret, and longing. Every small message, every gentle interaction is loaded with meaning for those who pay attention. It is their way of saying, I remember, I feel, I am willing to try again, carefully, thoughtfully, and with respect for what we once shared. Recognizing this can shift how we perceive avoidance, not as cold or indifferent, but as individuals who are working through their own fears while still yearning to connect. For viewers, this ending is meant to bring hope. It reminds us that even the most hesitant, distant, or emotionally guarded people are capable of growth, reflection, and meaningful connection. And avoidance, silence, or avoidance is not the end of the story. It is part of a process that can lead to reconciliation, understanding, and a deeper appreciation for the complexities of human attachment. The return is a reminder that love does not always need to be loud or dramatic. Sometimes it arrives quietly, carefully, and with more significance than words could ever convey. It also encourages reflection on the dynamics of connection. Relationships with avoidance are rarely straightforward. They require patience, empathy, and an understanding that love can be expressed in unconventional ways. Their actions are often more telling than their words, and their hesitations are rooted in both fear and care. When they finally reach out, it is a sign that they have confronted the inner obstacles that once held them back. It is a moment that validates persistence, compassion, and the belief that some connections are worth waiting for, even when they unfold slowly and quietly. In the end, their reaching out is a subtle but powerful message. They care, they acknowledge the past, and they are willing to try again. It is a demonstration of courage disguised as quiet action, a reflection of growth hidden behind walls, and a proof that even those who fear intimacy most deeply can eventually navigate the path back to connection. For anyone watching, this ending leaves a sense of hope, insight, and understanding. That love, even in its quietest form, can endure, evolve, and reemerge when the time is right.